Welcome everyone to this evening's remote viewing target exercise, Aesthetic Impact Informational Services, on November 28th, 2012, and our target today is making kettle corn. And the target, I did not do any specific front loading, it's just the target is the event. And that was the tasking, and I don't think anybody actually asked for front loading, and I don't remember putting any front loading in any of the announcements. Lynn Buchanan is with us, my CRV trainer, and Lynn is we have several new people here today. Lynn taught me control remote viewing. I was having a lot of psychic experiences happening in my life and in picking up all the time, and I came to study control remote viewing because I was studying nursing intuition. And pretty soon I had so much intuition going on that, as Lori Williams would say, my psychic was leaking out all over the place. And it gets kind of hard to hide. And so the military, I thought, after I found controlled remote viewing, I thought that if there were the ins and the outs and the protocols and the science behind it, these were the people who had developed it in a lab, and I thought they would be the people who would be ultimately able to answer my questions, because I didn't want to learn on a street corner from somebody who thought that they could teach and they'd learn from a book. That's kind of saying it mildly, but Lynn has a business, it's Problem Solutions Innovations, and he teaches students now. He has a very diverse background, and he is a former member of the Military Intelligence Unit Stargate who actually used control remote viewing in operations. So it was developed as a means to answer questions that we can't normally answer because we can't use our normal five senses. So, Lynn, before we launch into the discussion of this evening, and we do have a lot of sessions up here to look at. Some of these are the same session, they just JPEG with multiple because they aren't all in PDF form. But, Lynn, do you want to say anything? I think we have 4 or 5 new people here today.
Yeah, welcome to them and to everybody else, too. And, you know, I'm personally very glad to be here. This is my chance to do something productive today. I think if I had taken a job as a plastic flamingo in the front yard of Bubba and Daisy Mae's trailer, I would have had a more productive day. But I'm hoping to be of help to somebody here today. And I've been looking through each one of these first pages that you have here on the different tabs, and I'm seeing a lot of people got what appears to be really good sight contact, but you know, if like the front loading or if the tasking had been something like the target is an activity or a process, then instead of focusing on the people with dreadlocks, then people are walking around and all that, they might have zeroed in on this activity. But the the sessions that you have up here show that the people accessed this, you know, what appears to be this this site. I mean, all those bags of kettle corn up there, this is not somebody's backyard. This is some kind of an event, a fair or something like that. Did you have more information about this one particular thing?
The only thing I can tell you is this image comes from a private company. Oh, and okay. It's actually on the net in several places, but one place it does tell you that it is their company, and the event, they make this kettle corn, and it listed 4 different events.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there were a couple of fairs and not a Renaissance festival, but there were like 4 areas, and I could not nail down which area it was. And now here we have a neutrally worded thing to me to me, making this kettle corn is the event and not, and you're calling it an activity. So to me,
either way,
the event, okay, so that was my tasking, was the event was to make the kettle corn. Now maybe I should have said activity.
Well,
but
either way, to me the event would be the company picnic or something like that. And
I gotcha.
Going on the tasking of the event, there's a lot of good information that different people got in their sessions.
I agree. And for everybody, Lynn teaches us to be able to try to train to operational or application status from the minute we begin our training, which I like to say that to use this, most people who want to put the time and effort and resources into learning control remote viewing don't want to use it as a parlor game. So Lynn teaches us in stages, and he's developed his program, but from an operational standpoint, if you were working whatever case for, whatever question you were trying to answer, if the customer who came to you who needed this question answered, he knows, unless you're a police case working a total unknown, I'm just grabbing that out of the air, but if the customer knows anything about the site or the event or whatever at all, he's going to know better than anybody. So when he has your session results, it may not mean anything to the analyst or the project manager as much as it's going to mean to the customer. So you folks who are in training, when you look at your sessions, and this is a tiny little feedback photo, and you may have remote viewed something just off the camera that you, and I'm not making excuses for you, but you may have remote viewed something just off the camera lens that it didn't pick up, but the customer would know whether or not you had made site contact, and he would tell us, he or she would tell us to retask you for more information if they wanted to know something. That's very broad, I know, but a fair amount of you are very new, so I wanted to explain that because, like I said, there's a lot of, I think, descriptors that mention sweet and whatever, but I don't think there's one that mentions popcorn per se, and I don't want you to go away thinking that absolutely nobody got this target. So.
Yeah,
anyway.
And this is a very real thing too, that in operations, the more specific the tasking, the more specific the results. But like on this, if some customer wanted to know, okay, let's say they have 4 of these events a year, and some customer wanted to know some certain thing that happened and wanted to know which one it happened at and all. Looking through these sessions, the information would be there, and the customer would say, oh, I know which one that was. And so even though some people on here describe the people, the surroundings, the rocky slope with the water and all, a customer who had a question about, let's say, the kettle corn could say, oh, I know which one, had the bad corn and people got, food poisoning or something like that, where the grease was. And so even though, well, it's normal for a viewer to look at their session and say, oh, I missed the target. And, maybe you did miss the target, but if you got the site, then that's always valuable information for the customer. So don't sweat it. If you get the site, you got the viewing.
And one example is, and I know I keep using law enforcement, say you had a missing person case, and they had 4 areas that they wanted us to look at. This is one of the popcorn festivals that this was listed as being done at, and they would maybe take a look at the table, and they didn't use the red tablecloth at all of them. They only used it as, you know, there was something in there that would be meaningful to them that would maybe steer them toward the 1 and 4. So anyway, hopefully that makes some sense.
Just as an example, one time there was a missing girl in Spotsylvania, Virginia, and they asked me to describe her location. Well, the thing is, they had already found her location, so they were just testing me. And what I described was not her location at all. And I described a road that takes a 90-degree turn, and there's a little dirt road going out past that with a fence and a red rag on it. And that wasn't anything near where they had found her. But the next day, there was a cop driving through the country out there, hit that 90-degree road, saw the thing, and saw the red rag hanging off the fence. They stopped and investigated and found the next missing girl.
Oh.
And so, you know, this, you know, all of this background information, it can sometimes be very, very useful. And so the bottom line is, if you get it, write it down, because somebody wants to know it.
Okay, and just so you guys have probably all scrolled through, this is kettle corn. It's made at the fair. It's sweet and salty, and so you saw the environment. So let me see here. Jed's session is, I think, 59 pages, and we'll get to that in a minute, but he is an advanced student, and he's practicing his P6 tools, and I thought if we could go through some of these that are a little bit shorter first. This is Michelle. She's a basic CRV student, and she's been working target steadily and is getting her structure down. I told her that we talked just for a minute before the power went out here, and let me see if I can shrink this just a little bit, even though it's the folks who watch this later on don't like me to shrink it too much. But anyway, Michelle got site contact. I suggested maybe she could have taken coordinates more than once, but she is, I was going to give her one of Jed's sessions. She gives a lot of information, and I've seen her targets before. She's not gotten away from sentence structure yet, and instead of just words. And I was going to be talking with her about that, but she gets a lot of visuals and sketching. But she has not been remote viewing very long. And I'm scanning down through this. I don't have, as Lynn and I were saying, a lot of topography, and I don't know what the surroundings are outside of that fence. And Lynn, and we already discussed activity versus event for the tasking. So, and people who have been working a lot of targets, have been encouraging them to set aside their previous sessions so they don't jump target. And I've been working with the folks in emails saying, if you're practicing move commands, as you indicated, we should write down to move back to the assigned target, maybe even on every page to get you back. And if you have moved 500 yards to the north or something, you need to get back to the starting target. So.
Yeah, one of the problems is that in a great number of practice targets and training targets, you're supposed to describe the surroundings and the land and the water and all this, because that's basically what you have in training and practice targets, the majority of them. And so people go into getting a tasking, their first impulse is to look around at the land and all that. This is useful But like you said, at some point you have to give yourself a cue, a move command. And you had said event here. Move to the event and describe. And you know, that in this case here would have pulled you off of describing the land and the water, which is probably there. And on the next page, she's got her breathing echoes, okay, water, cave, diver, and so on. Then I had a hard time reading this down at the bottom. I felt like I was sandwiched between water and rock.
Michelle, if you wanna comment, go ahead.
Okay. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, please.
Hang on. Which Michelle do I have here?
Is there two Michelles?
Actually, it's Margaret. Sorry about that. Margaret, this is you.
No. Oh.
Am I looking at the wrong one here?
Yeah.
Oh,
uh-oh. I'm looking at Bornhorst.
Oh. Okay.
Uh-oh. Who are you looking at?
Me.
I saw Mary Ross up at the top of that, so I...
Yeah, and it is, but that's who she faxed it from.
Oh, I see.
This is Margaret Bornhorst. Margaret's her formal name. Sorry.
I get the top of the page has her name, and then I don't get anything else.
Okay, then you've got target one. I'm on, at the top of the screen, it's the third tab. Bornhorst?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, and then I can go, to page 2.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, that's pretty neat.
Oh, no, he's got a new toy.
Oh, boy.
IT technology, too. Here we go.
This WebEx may not be as bad as I thought.
Yeah, it's only been, what, 2 years? You might make a friend of it yet.
Well, I'm slow, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Space, air,
That's
open.
all right.
Okay, oops, it went back to page 1.
Up at the top, there's drop-down tab.
Yeah,
And it'll get you to page 2 or a sideways scrolly tab. Either way.
That's okay, got this.
Uh-oh, new toy.
Hee hee. Got the, okay. Oh, all right. Okay.
Now he's on a roll.
Yeah. What I'm seeing, I'm on page 4 here, and you've got the bar across, basically the handle of the kettle and all that, and yet this turned into a, why does this keep jumping pages on me? This turned into an aqueduct or a bridge, canal, dark water, and you can see the progression here of logical thinking. And this is why, you know, we tend to set all nouns over to the side. And so aqueduct, bridges, canals, those should have gone over to the side, and it would have left your mind open to say, well, I don't know what this is, but there's round things that go over and so on. And just fell into a little trap here. But
that's like she hasn't been viewing very long, and so
she's right exactly where you would expect her to be then.
Yep. She's needing to learn to describe one word at a time instead of sentences, and to move all those nouns over to the right and declare them and set them aside so that they don't suck her into that naming guessing game.
Yeah, don't identify, just describe. You know, when you try to guess what the target is, that's where basically the remote viewing stops, because your conscious mind is in there saying, ooh, I know what it is, I know what it is, and your subconscious gets shoved off to the side. But if you look at these descriptors,
Yeah.
okay, fortress feeling and so on, strong community,
Because
dedicated.
they could be at a fort, and I'm not waffling. They really do this stuff at festivals and whatever.
Yeah, but also these old pots.
Yeah.
You know, where do you use those? And you know,
Kettles.
Kettles, yeah, and these aren't people's kitchens, yeah. But
Yeah.
if you look through here from what I've seen so far, and you look at the descriptors and pull out the nouns and pay attention only to the descriptors, look here on the bottom of page 5, okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Scroll like rolled out form, okay, and that sketch.
Yeah.
You might think, if you were still thinking aqueduct, that this is a perfect picture of an aqueduct, but look how far back it goes and so on. I think she's drawn the sacks of kettle corn that are on the table. Got the impression of that. And yet, making out, you know, waves, locks, water, and so on, that once you start allowing yourself to get that noun and say, ooh, I know what it is, it traps you. And like I say, so far, you look through here, look through the descriptors and drop the nouns out. Looks like a good session. Okay.
Janine has a thing. You don't have a visual of the session. Do you mean the feedback or the session itself? The only thing you should be able to see right now is a remote viewing session. You won't be able to see the feedback at the same time. Okay. Because, anyways, we go down through this, and I know we're spending quite a bit of time talking about this, but if you, why am I thinking back on that feedback that it was a tent? I don't see that anywhere, so scratch that. That's me.
No, it doesn't look like it was in a tent,
No,
but look here on page 6, lit path, okay, surrounded by clouds. It is surrounded by clouds. See all that steam going up and all that?
Yeah.
And so there is definite side contact here, yellowish.
And she's got dark center, and that thing is black.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now look at this: yellowish cement. Hard. Is it lard or hard and bumpy?
Land bumpy.
Is it land? Land mass like a cut off tree trunk with something on top.
Yeah. Technology and center. Yeah. And okay. You got the stirring here. You're on page 7 now. Yeah. And yeah.
Dark center with rough edges, white crust, shell-like.
Yeah, and you know what I would say here is this is a session showing really, really good sight contact. I mean, really good sight contact. But the not being able to throw away the nouns yet is what's
well, she's only been
gonna make
doing this less than a month, probably.
Then I'm proud of her for this.
And you should see. Let's face it, we all kind of like to get our mind candy, you know, and figure out how well we did.
Yeah.
She hung in there. She hung in here for 15 pages. I'm proud of her, and I told her so.
Yeah. Most people who've been at this for a month or so will wind it up in one page and try to say, oh, the target is a, and give you some kind of a noun that's almost always wrong. Hanging in there like this, yeah, this shows impressive sight contact.
Yeah.
Those nouns will mess you over every time. And, you know, I'll be honest about it. I've been doing this for like 25 years or something, and they catch me every now and then. I'll think, ooh, I know what the target is, and and I mess myself up every time I allow that to happen.
Ms. Barnhorst, do you have anything you'd like to talk to us about before we move on to the next person? She can if she wants. She's just not going to. So, all right, because we were talking in here. She knows her mic works. So.
Oh, okay.
All right. Strong work. I know you don't think so.
Oh, listen.
She's a stickler. She has her own barrel of wet noodles, trust me.
Oh, yeah. It's the plaintive cry of every remote viewer is, one, I want my feedback, and two, oh no, I'm terrible, I can't do this. When I've seen people have perfect sessions and say, well, that's not what I was seeing, you know. No, this is a good session.
All right, moving on.
Okay, here's Michelle. Right.
Yep, and this is Michelle, and I can't pronounce your last name.
It's full gas.
Oh, I would have been okay. Oh, you know, are you related to Deborah?
Well, no, but people think so.
You sound like her. Okay. All right. Well, so
I'm sure Debbie's laughing right now.
Okay. Well, here's Michelle's session, and she is a student of Debbie Katz. And, I mean, just checking, I think I have 2 pages. Is that correct?
Yeah. I was interrupted, and that was a question I wanted to ask. At the end, I don't know if I'm jumping too far ahead, but the phone rang, and it kind of scared, you know, unexpectedly. And I could not, after I was done with the phone, I couldn't kind of go back. And then when I tried to go back, I got like a whole different, I mean, I felt like I was in some other place. I wasn't like kind of continuing. So I wasn't sure if I should stop or keep going or so.
Okay, Lynn, just so you know, page 1, she has page 1 and 2. Your next tab is page 2. And I don't know what methodology you've had before or if you're just starting everything.
What do you mean?
How much remote viewing training have you had? I'll put it that way.
Okay, not a lot at all. Deborah kind of gave me the basics, and I've been working on Marty's group a little bit, and which is more, I think, like a free spirit kind of way, and then now I'd like to learn more of a controlled remote viewing. So I'm just like tapping into it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, never give up.
Yeah.
And, in fact, when you practice, it's a good idea now and then to just stop and say break and write the time down. And even if you just get up and walk around the room and come back and sit down again and start again, it teaches you to take breaks. And, you know, if you get some bad information, who cares? It's a practice session. But over a period of time, it will teach you to take a break, like the phone rings or something like that. Take a break and then come right back to it and continue on where you left off. A lot of times when you take a break like that, because there's an interruption, if you come back and you give yourself the coordinates and just write them down again, you'll be immediately right back on the target.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and so we had these problems, you know, we'd be working a session and some general or some congressman or something like that would bust in with some story from his childhood or something, and And, you know, and everybody, because of the rank, everybody had to stop and listen and smile and nod. And then we'd turn back and go back into session. And so we had to learn the hard way how to stop a session and then pick it up right where we left off and go on, even though that may be 20 minutes or a day later or something like that. It's a really hard thing to do, but with practice you can learn to do it.
Oops.
Oops.
Somehow we went back to the event. I don't know why. Just since we found out, you know, you haven't had any formal training, which you don't have to have. I mean, we have people learning freestyle over on TKR, and they've been with other trainers, but there are a fair amount of words here that if you take them by themselves, like if you set the word cave aside because it's a noun and described what the cave was like, if he's in a tent, you know, if that would be enclosed, and I'm not saying that, I'm not making excuses, but you think if you describe the environment, it sets the word cave aside and what goes with it, you know, dark, damp, stuff, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, we learned to kind of cheat early on. You can't use nouns, and so we learned lee, and like, and ish. So ripple-y, echo-y, cliff-like. And that way, if you say something is cliff-like, you haven't trapped yourself into seeing a cliff. Sharp, edgy, okay, rocky, jagged is good here. Cave-like, sparkly, okay, dark and clear, those are adjectives. That's great. Dropping up at the top. And so this lets you kind of cheat because it lets you describe without locking yourself into some kind of an idea. And so, you know, if you tend to use a noun, go ahead and stick e or like or you know, rocky, rock-like, rockish, whatever onto it, and it keeps you from being trapped into that noun.
Okay.
When we go through some of the sessions where people take coordinates and get ideograms, maybe you'll get better. We believe in control remote viewing, you get better sight contact if you do it that way. So rather than just coming in cold and beginning like a sketch with dropping or whatever, that might help you get your pen moving and be able to flow right into your descriptors. But I'll try to remember to point that out to you when we're there.
Okay.
Okay?
Great.
I'm glad you're here with us. Well, you're welcome. All right.
Was this your first session?
This is my first session with you. I've done a couple other ones with Marty's group. Do you know Marty Rosenblatt?
Yeah,
okay.
Rosenblatt, yeah.
Yeah, so I've done a few, you know, with that, and I learned the judging with it and stuff like that. And
okay,
Deborah
good.
told me to kind of go back to kind of the basics and, you know, just keep practicing.
Yeah.
That was like a huge message, to keep practicing.
Yeah. He uses a slightly different method, you know, just as soon as you get something, write it onto the paper. And we do the same, but then go into, you know, get descriptors and descriptors and descriptors. And, you know, CRV gets quite mechanical at times, but in the end, you wind up getting more information. With Marty's targets, since he's doing associative remote viewing, what he's really interested in is getting enough information that he can tell which target you were looking at.
Right.
And with CRV, you know, you want to know, hey, where is this missing kid? What is it that's written on that classified sheet of paper that's locked in the safe in the Kremlin or something like that?
Okay.
And so CRV demands a whole lot more detail for the customer.
Okay.
Whereas Marty just wants the information that will tell him which target. And so you'll find that CRV is a little more demanding, and yet you're still doing basically the same job. You know, it's just a little more nitpicky, really.
I kind of think of it like when you learn the piano, they really want you to learn classical first, and then from, you know, that's kind of your foundation.
Yeah.
So kind of when it controlled remote viewing, be more like you're getting your foundation, and then you can kind of fly from there once you get your basics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But that looked good.
Well, thank you.
I went ahead and pulled up Deborah's session. Hey, Deborah, I'm going to ask, I need to get a surge protector for my guest. Can you take your mic off mute and go ahead and talk about your session for me?
Sure.
Thank you. I'll be right back, folks.
Yeah. So I just have my, I don't know if you guys can see my session up here. I'm not seeing it. Can you guys see my session?
Yeah,
It's just my Excel sheet with.
Oh, wait a minute. This says Evans.
Yeah, that's not mine. So maybe he should.
It's the fourth. It's the fourth tab over.
Right. Oh. Oh, there it is. Okay. It's an Excel sheet. Yeah, I definitely was not on kettle corn. I was having a sense of something very, very massive and large. And it seemed statue-like. And so I got kind of fixated on that for a while. And I didn't really explore my, my other gestalts too much. So I would say I don't see, I mean, it's very possible I was describing something there, it just wasn't the kettle corn. Don't really have too much else to say about that.
I'm echoing here. Sorry about that. I was looking down through here and saw some information, though, that presented itself that, you know, would provide some information about the meeting or the event that had the kettle corn. But, yeah, you know, you definitely got stuck on the statue and holding the binoculars and people now trying to get this first sketch here. Okay, anything else to know? Which is a great cue, by the way. Oops, to see out on the green. And I like the fact that that you're using this. Oh, I see what the problem is. Excuse me while I mess around here with the new toy I found. I like the fact that you're using this outline form and putting the sketches in and all. This really, really helps when it comes to finding out what the target is, and, you know, and actually turning it into an operation.
feel like I'm getting more used to using the Excel sheet, and I just learned how to insert the picture in that today, so at least I'm getting practice with that.
You know, once you learn to use the Excel spreadsheet, it really helps you in describing the target, getting the information to the analyst or to the customer or whatever. And, you know, it's one of those things that is sort of an acquired taste. You have to acquire a taste for working in outline format. But once you do, it really, you know, it really lines it out. There's no ambiguity to what you're trying to say or anything.
Yeah, it really does get easier every time I do it. The first time I had to use this format, I think it was in Lori Williams' class, and I think it took me about 3 hours to write my summary. It goes much faster now, and I can appreciate just how you pretty much should have one word on one line, so then you can score it. I mean, I violated that a bit here, but I like that concept too.
Yeah,
because then you can have part of it right, but not the other part.
Yeah, that's okay. And, you know, the thing is, like if you're working for real, on a real world target for a business or for the police or something like that, then you're going to have like anywhere from 3 to 20 people working on it, and you get this to an analyst. An analyst can go through this and pull out the information they need just in seconds, whereas a run-on paragraph as a summary, it would take an analyst, you know, an hour, and then they might have to call you 5 times to ask what you meant by such and such. And so this really does speed up the process, the entire remote viewing process for operations. And like Teresa said, I teach toward operations. I figure if you can't use this to help somebody, then it's a parlor game. And so I teach toward operations, and I mean, whether it's your first session or your first 1,000 sessions, if you've got good information in there and it can save a kid and bring a kid home alive or find some information that nobody else can find, hey, you're doing a good job.
Since I missed the entire discussion, I'm looking over this. What did you all think?
Pretty much, I was doing something, but not the target itself. But my summary looks nice, even if it's not of the target. So.
Gotcha. But I know I keep getting stuck on a tent here, but ropes and I don't know, if you picture a tent, there's a lot of descriptors there that might apply. But I know we don't have a tent to confirm that.
Yeah.
I will say I did have a tent shape come up a couple of times, and I don't think I really indicated that anywhere. But I mean, it was definitely like triangular with lines going down, and I didn't really explore that enough or at all.
This has been erected, something about a mast, may lean over a bit.
Yeah.
Got ropes connected to it, possibly scaffolding.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen these kettle corn things before, but the bar going across the top is hooked to 2 legs on each side, much like a sawhorse. And so you've got that tent shape right there. I think on this one, the place where it got off is where she described the biological as a statue, and I think that noun trapped her. And I think from that point on, you know, she was trapped into the Statue of Liberty with tourists taking pictures and looking at binoculars and so on.
You know what, I find that I also, when I had a strong ideogram, my ideogram strongly suggested water, and I find that sometimes if I feel like they're strongly suggesting water, like that's kind of what I started with, I really feel like sometimes they mislead me. They put a thought in my head, and I understand that you're supposed to go through your session and then you get more and more information and then, you know, question your initial assessment that it's water, but I feel like I kind of got astray at the very beginning because of that.
Well, here's one of the uses of the database is you database the information in your sessions, and you know, if 90% of the time you say there's water there, then even though this feedback does not show it, I'll believe there's water there because you have.
There's also liquid there. They're using oil.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's important to, again, just to not think, okay, I'm getting water, so it must be like a big body of water. Water could be anything.
Yeah.
Remember, the ideogram is a gestalt, and we call it water, but it's actually the gestalt of being liquid. And so when you get the ideogram for water, it could be a raindrop, it could be a cloud, it could be an ocean, or, you know, a gallon of gasoline. So it's a liquid.
Yeah, that's good to keep in mind. I'm also trying to expand my ideograms, so it would be great to have several representing different kinds of water, I think.
Yeah, you know, those will develop over time. Like for mine, I have an actual ideogram for water. And when I get that, I know it's not gasoline, I know it's not anything, but it is actual water. And I have another one for water vapor, showing cloud or steam or something like that. And these gestalts develop over time. So yeah, it's just, you know, practice, practice, practice.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Deborah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
It's Michelle. When you do get something stuck in your head, how do you kind of get through that? Like, if she's kind of has the Statue of Liberty kind of stuck in her head, how do you kind of overcome that to get more information?
Generally, there are two ways to do that. One is to just go over to the right side of the page. And, you know, all left brain stuff goes on the right side of the page. And just write it out. Write out a whole thing, you know, and then go back and start describing. And let's say you're absolutely certain it's the Statue of Liberty. Fine, write all of that out. Get it out of your mind and down onto the paper. But then you go back and you say, okay, I'm going to describe not the Statue of Liberty, but I'm going to describe this thing I think is the Statue of Liberty. And you'll start describing, and you may have a page full of descriptors that describe the Statue of Liberty, but then you're going to hit one that says, oh, well, if it's that, let's say rubbery. Oh, well, if it's rubbery, and I'm sure it's rubbery, then it's not the Statue of Liberty. And all of a sudden, you're free from that thought. You've untrapped yourself.
I went ahead and just pulled up a target. This is viewer 6, who is operational, and There's actually a retasking that goes to this, but I'll have to switch to desktop because for whatever reason the file won't load into WebEx. But there are no sketches with this. He has got the gestalt of technical, mechanical, organic, male, bios, and land. And for the land, man-made, there appears to be an area to the lower right. It appears to be underground opening, or what appears to be an opening. Sort of like an amphitheater. It's circular. The circumference of the opening appears to be layered. At the center of it appears to have a gear-shaped object. Below this structure, it appears to be very deep, but you can't see it from ground level. From a position below looking up, there looks to be an apparatus that is moving clockwise at a moderate speed that has allowed sunlight to shine through, and which makes it look like a strobe effect. And there's an area that appears below the ground that is cylinder-shaped with grid markings on the side panels. There are multiple bios at different locations, and he designates male. There's a white coat or shirt, tall, thin, middle-aged, hair is dark, and looks dyed. Male is holding a small object in the right hand, and a circular rod-like section is protruding between a thumb and index finger. Object appears to be dark in color. There's a group of bios located to the right, and they appear to be similar in dress, appear to be looking west in a vertical line, and they are observing or acting like security personnel. Appears to be a female dressed warmly, appears to be calling, appears to be looking down as if speaking or giving directions to someone. And another man-made appears to be an area located to the left, looks like a canal-like structure. And on page 2 we have, appears to be some kind of dredging going on with what appears to be water. And the color of this liquid is brown and appears to be murky. And there's another man-made position north, appears to have 2 or 3 stories or levels. Color is whitish beige. Another man-made position north-left appears to have small rectangular objects. Now remember what those stacks of bags of corn look like, because you have to translate this in your head into pictures. There appears to have small rectangular objects lined up in rows in a vertical position. They resemble small rooftops that are angled to shift mechanically. Mechanical man-made looks like 2 objects coming from the north heading in a southerly direction, one behind the other. Objects are airborne. And other things there are echoing sounds as if somebody's calling, reverberating as if on a loudspeaker. The temperature appeared to be cold, and there is an exhaust oily smell. There is a foul smell of standing polluted liquid, and he has in parenthesis water. Land in the center of this area appears to have a roadway leading south. There is a vast flat that's been leveled out. Area set in an outdoor setting, able to see in all directions. And there is an ambiance of semi-sanitized, and the area appears at an out-of-the-way location. And on the surface, it appears like nothing much is taking place. Now let me get that retasking real quick.
Have you noticed on each one of these, you've got cave, you've got amphitheater, you've got openings, you've got the arch that's under a bridge, or you know, and so on. Everybody was getting that handle and identifying it as something else. And when you identify it, you know, you trap yourself. I don't want to keep repeating myself here, but that arch is appearing in almost every single session here, you know, as different things. And the bags of corn, of kettle corn that are stacked over there on the table, they seem to be appearing in the different sessions too. And for one, it shows sight contact. For two, it shows our normal tendency to name things. You know, the old thing of Oganog were walking through the primeval forest and they heard a twig snap behind them. Og said, "Saber-toothed tiger," and ran Og turned around and said, what's that? And we're descendants of Og, because he lived to tell about it and to have kids. And so from the very first dawn of mankind, we've been naming things. And it's very hard for all of us to quit naming and start describing. Circular in shape, sort of like an amphitheater, and so on. So these are our natural human tendencies, and yet they're what are going to trap us every time. So anyway, I just wanted to inject that while you were getting your next thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get the next thing, and whatever happened with that power surge, now I had to come back, and I joined, and so I'm hosting, but it's still not letting me seem to be in control. So I can't share my desktop, but I have found a workaround. Nothing else. Just a second here, and I'll have this. All right. It wouldn't let me share the file, so I just made my own document. By golly.
By the way, my wife says it's not menopause, it's a power surge.
Oh, okay. I'll remember that. Might need to know that. Actually, too much information, Teresa. I'll shut up. For me.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine. I'm the one that better not take that and run with it, because I'll do something clinical with it. We don't need to know that. I'm also trying to remember this file. What did I just name it? Viewer 6 retasking. Whether or not it's Teresa's. Copy. Nope, that's not what I want. Just a second. Teresa workaround. That's what I said. And of course, it won't find that. This thing gets so persnickety. Because I moved everything into a folder. All right, I'll keep working on that. And we'll see if I can, because I retasked him on the 3 things that he was thinking looked like rooftop that were coming in from the north. So, well, Russ, I just found out that I'm not going to be able to dodge into my desktop to retrieve your images and show everybody. But here is Russ's session. Russ is a viewer learning at home and hangs out with us whenever we get together, so he's not had any formal training. And Russ, since you have a mic now, do you want to take off your mute and talk about your session, or I'll give you that opportunity? Actually, I'm looking for Russ. Where did he go? He has been having computer trouble and getting thrown out. I think he's gotten thrown out 3 times already, and he's not showing up in the room right now. All right, so he gets a lot of information, and maybe he's gone. He apologized, says in and out contact tonight, sorry. So maybe he's not going to be able to make it back. I did not get a chance to review his session, but all of you can read it. You don't really need me to read to you.
here again, we're getting the steeper terrain with structures and all, and not Michelle, but maybe it was Michelle, got that steep terrain, and so here may be confirmation. Remember, when you do CRV, it's not like when you do ARV, like Marty does. You're not describing the picture, you're describing the actual site. And so there have been enough of these sessions that say steeper terrain and hills and, you know, jagged and all that, that I would tend to suspect that wherever this event is being held, it's near some kind of land like that. You know, people keep seeing it, then it's generally there.
I'm just reading. Somebody else, he's got historic landmark. You know, we've gotten everything from, I think, fortresses to statues to, you know, things you would find in a park or what have you.
Yeah, when I put up targets of the week on the website, which, by the way, you shouldn't go to right now because it does have a virus. When I put up the targets on the website, what I do is I get as much information as possible because I don't want people going to the picture and describing the picture. I want them going to the actual site. And so for that, you know, you have to have all kinds of feedback for even stuff that's not in the picture. And so you'll find on the targets of the week that you get a whole lot more information and then references to places on the internet or books or things like that where you can get more information if I haven't provided enough. So don't think that just because something that's described here is not in the picture that it's wrong. We have question marks for that, okay? Is there jagged terrain? We don't know, so you'd have to give it a question mark.
Another thing, too, for the folks who are pretty new, each of us, I always use the analogy of we're all like on a field trip, and we're all on a bus, and we've been dropped off at a location, and the teacher tells us to stay out of trouble and meet at such and such a place at 11:30 for lunch. But until then, you know, you're a big kid and you can go explore on your own. You don't need to be told exactly, you know, if you're in operations, that's a different story, but we're here to practice and learn. So whatever gets your attention, you know, stop and check it out, that's okay. As you progress in your training, you get more and more finely tuned and you are cued in how to get right to the answer, the question that needs to be answered, because instead of stopping off to view the entire museum or whatever catches your fancy, you need to get that information and get back out and you're done, write your report. So, but anyway, each of us will be interested in maybe a different aspect of the location. So you may not ever get the same thing, and that's good. That's why we build viewer teams.
Yeah, and just like in that analogy there, you know, you get home from the field trip and you've got a picture postcard of the whatever is at the site, and you say, yeah, and I went off over to the right over here, and guess what I found? And, you know, it's not in the picture. It's not on that postcard, but it's there. And that's really what we're after. And, you know, a business may ask for specific information, and yet the police may say, describe the entire area so that we'll know where it is. And that's where you have people describing areas. So both of these are valid and, you know, and useful in different operations. So just because we can't show it in the picture doesn't mean it's not there.
Russ, I see you're back. Do you have anything you'd like to add about, we went over all your pages, and as usual, you have a ton of information there, and I see that you have taken off your mute, so go ahead.
Well, I don't know what all you noticed. I thought I mentioned there was some type of primitive kitchen where there was a hole underneath the counter. I think that was the pot separated from the countertop. I'd sketched a guy with his arms sort of cocked to the right, straight on. And I just tried to push my sketches to a limit to where I milked the cow so much that, you know, I was probably in other places you're never going to see or find out about. I thought maybe we had more feedback, so I pushed it, but I guess I shouldn't have kept going and going like I did. I went way off.
I'm looking for where do you have your kitchen statement?
It's got to be in there because I was a visual in my head, and I know what's in there. It was underneath the counter. There was nothing under the counter. It was like a countertop with nothing. It looked like a nasty, dirty type place. I know I saw it, and if I didn't write it down, I don't know, but it should be there.
It might be in your sketches.
Yeah, it's got to be there somewhere. I know for a fact that was one of the things I saw that made sense when I saw that little part of the picture there.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody here actually seen these kettle corn things? They have them around here, so.
Yeah,
I have.
Here at Silver Springs, they usually have a little tarp tent, and they're sitting off sort of towards the shade so the guy doesn't get too overly hot during the day. But
right, and generally you might think there's an open fire under here, but the guy has to stand close enough to keep stirring that thing. And so there's not an open fire.
I just saw where it said sunk under.
Yeah.
It said sunk under.
Yeah.
That was a part about the kitchen. I don't know if you were on a different page just then, but that was part of, I'm sure, part of the description I was trying to tell you about. It was over the last page back, but there's so much there. It's definitely not to the point this time.
I'm on page 2 right now, and it's got cooking. The structure is cooking related, low oval.
There's something about sunk under.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got that as an AOL.
That's
on, I think, the next page.
That's where there was.
No, it's on page 3.
The sink and the counter. That was part of the sink and the counter. I know that was part of it.
Okay.
I read it backwards and forwards. Sunk under or
You've got
under sink. See, I thought that was a really crappy kitchen because it was, you know, the table was sort of, here's the top. There's no counters and there's no, you know, cupboards. Here's the sink torn up over here, and it's really the pot. So I had it sort of scrambled up in my head seeing it.
Well, gee, imagine that.
Yep. And
well, that is kind of a crappy kitchen.
Yeah, I thought it wasn't very sanitary. I thought, you know, it probably needed remodeling or something. It was so odd looking. I couldn't figure out. It was outside. I thought it was in an old dank house.
Yeah.
I had no idea on that.
And being scrambled up mentally, that puts you down there with the rest of us.
Yep. Yeah, I really wrote too much on this one.
No, you didn't. This is good. This is complete. This is almost all of these are descriptive words, and I mean, you got detail and detail and detail in here. No, you absolutely did not write too much.
Because look at sounds: metallic, rattling, echoes, gurgling, wave-like, splashing. You know, when you're stirring that kettle corn, it makes a lot of racket, and you can't stop. because you know what happens if you stop.
Yep, it gets sticky and it sits right there.
Uh-huh.
Because it got a little corn syrup and mix it in
Yeah,
there.
you even used the word sweet, I think, on one of your earlier pages.
Yep. Oh, I don't know how I stuck some things in here that I don't see. It sort of bothered me, but I don't know what else. We can't look around any further, but don't know what would happen. I thought the grass was seaweed. I didn't think that was. I thought it was another level to the grass, when it was actually maybe between two tables. I don't know, but it seemed like there was a grassy area between two tables. But I thought it was elevation of a flat, green area.
Just describe it.
Yeah.
All you do is just describe it.
So.
Forget. Anyway.
Yeah. Wish I had more to say, but some of my sketches make pretty good sense. And the other ones I pushed so far, I don't know where they came from. One of them looks like a head from Easter Island. I don't know what that thing came from. Guess we never will know, but it sure was strange.
Well, thank you for your session. As usual, it is packed full of stuff. But you're getting, you have cultural, art, historical, stuff like that. And like you said, we don't know if this is at a park or what. But it could, this is a festival or event of some kind. So.
Yeah. I thought it was related to some particular culture, not.
It is American.
Yeah.
We have culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is generally in the South, too, isn't it?
No, we have it. We're in Ohio.
You Yankees have this, too?
Yes, we do. And they even have it up in the Hoosier State.
Hey, this is American, then.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, up in Indiana, we make kettle corn with the best of them. Okay, it's 9:22, and we still have a couple to go, so we probably ought to go on. Thank you very much, Russ. By the way, Daz is getting ready to come out with a new issue of 8 Martinis, and several of the folks here are going to have some sessions in that magazine, some little snippets of different targets that we've done. Jed and Deborah, and let's see who else is here, and Russ, all have some snippets. I think we have like 6 or 8 viewers and 6 or 8 targets. And Janine, I think Janine's got one in there. I tried to get a fair sampling, so y'all are going to be published. I can see you're impressed. Okay. Moving right along, we have Leanne's target, and Leanne is a student of Pam Coronado. And see, she's got a very happy, excited feeling. And let's see, I'm trying to think, do you have a mic? Nope. You do now. Leanne, if you want to talk, go ahead.
Not really. I'll listen.
Okay. All right.
I'd rather listen.
Yes, ma'am. Let's see. Another person getting water and rubber that's being stretched. All right. And she's seeing fancy dresses and lace. Let's see here. Depends on if they were having some kind of historic, like, fort kind of thing. But more people with the water. Silver dots or balls in the water. Popcorn kernels. Guessing, don't want to waffle. And Lynn, if you want to go ahead and break in here, feel free.
Yeah, again, we're seeing the water and the rocks theme, you know, and I mean, that's just too many people saying it to ignore it. And like you say, it's waffling here to say dots or balls in water, and yet you have got the kernels of corn in the liquid, and so so you can't discount that either.
Yep.
What you can say is it's a possibility. Yeah, and I was noticing here one of the things that stands out is the Q before every thing. This is good. It doesn't hurt to re-Q at all, and in fact, just given the target number is quite often a good Q. You can also say, like, okay, she's got here boat, small boat or boat on water. That's a noun, locking you into it, and so on. But I hear the motor running, okay? The next cue could also be describe the motor sounds, okay? Something like that. Describe the sounds would be even better. And okay, the sound is, you know, a hum. The sound is continuous. The sound is rough. The sound is deep, and you know, staccato-y and all that. And you can use these things to give cues as well. You don't always have to use only the coordinates, but using the coordinates is, hey, that's perfectly fine. And cueing over and over and over, what it does is it will cue you and move your attention to a different part of the site, and this is where you start seeing the site in 3D. It's without cues, a remote viewing session can be just like the rest of life. Is that, you know, you've walked through your house so many times that you don't see the pictures on the walls anymore. Somebody else would see them coming in because they're new to them. And yet if you cue, describe the walls, oh, all of a sudden you see the pictures that have been hanging there for all the years you've lived in the house, and you see them again for another time. So cueing like this, cueing over and over and over, really helps.
Straight up the top of the stairs. I was going to try and demonstrate, but like I said, since I got thrown out of here with that power surge, I was going to try and demonstrate for her how to write like the word boat off at the side and then come back over to the left and with the motor running and so on, and write on the left-hand side of the page. But when she gets, when we get to Jen's session, that's going to be a learning curve for everybody. So there'll be a busy structure.
And you know, I said you wouldn't cue with boat, but if you go over to the right side and write AOL boat, then you can cue with describe that which I'm calling a boat. And you'll probably find out it's not a boat, but you'll start describing it, and at some point you'll say, oh, I know what that is, and you'll name it. You take that over to the right, write it down, and then you go back and you say, okay, describe that, which I'm now calling a whatever, and you get good descriptors that way.
Okay, keep it to the right.
If it's a noun.
If it's a noun.
If it's a noun. Okay.
Yep.
If it's trying to name it, move it to the right. The question marks, that's all, you know. I don't know if the silver, but they were shiny. I should have said shiny instead of dots or balls in water. So I was thinking, you know, I shouldn't have said silver, but the question mark, I was like, are they in water? It was not clear at all. So,
Yeah.
and a pony, you know, I'm not sure if it was a pony, but it was something animalistic like. But anyway, it was colorful, fanciful, like a child would imagine, and that's pretty much as close as I could get it. I just saw a flash of that.
Yeah. Well, on this, like you could say silvery or silver, dot-like, round, floating, or, you know, floating or swirling in a liquid, and then you could write liquid over to the side as a noun, and you come back and you say, oh, describe that which I'm calling a liquid. Oh, it's hot, it's boiling, and you find out more about it.
Aha. Very good, thank you. Yes.
All right, we lost Jed. Thank you so much for sending that in, Leanne. And
Thank you.
I am glad that you're here with us. We are getting quite a group of folks from all kinds of trainers, so that's good because we can share how people do things.
Yeah, and Pam, you'll find, is a really good viewer, and out there on the internet especially, you can do tons and tons and tons worse. She's one of the best, and she's got a fantastic track record of viewing, and so, yeah, you have a good teacher.
Yes.
Well, anybody that the FBI likes, you know, what can you say? Okay.
For having me.
Well, I'm glad you were able to come. We hope to see more of you. And I wish Jed were here. He has been progressing. He is now in advanced class. And so this is a really long, he has 59 pages. But he is still using his tools, and the reason the session is so long is because he's practicing all sorts of stuff. So let me just go back up here. I'm going to go down to, for those folks who don't do CRV per se as your methodology, here I'm on page 2, and Jed has written his coordinates. And then the second line, we have viewer numbers, and this is his designated viewer number. And then out here, I'll see if maybe this thing will let me highlight or something. Here is his, and it's not going to let me do that either. It's his ideogram.
Yeah, and if you look, he's got 4 pages of summary, in fact.
Yeah. So let me see. Well, this thing is doing all kind of squirrely stuff tonight. Okay, there's his ideogram, which what he's doing is he'll take his coordinates and then his pen will just take off. And that's his ideogram, and it will stand for something that he's been practicing, and it's a gestalt of land or motion, or here's another one, man-made. And I know I'm not forcing CRV on you, but for some of you who were doing some of this and were getting sight contact, if you take coordinates as a basic view or introductory at least 3 or 4 times and get several gestalts, don't take coordinates for, 2-3 days because you won't get anything else done with your life other than work this session. But, take them 3 or 4 times, see if you can get a few gestalts and establish some good sight contact. And then pick one of those gestalts. Here, he chose man-made. And he came down and, Margaret, are you still here, I hope? Yep. All right, you see, instead of a sentence, his man-made, he's wrote, that looks like had, but I sort of doubt that. He's already getting dimensionals, tall, thin, oval, clean. Go ahead.
That's man-made 1, close parentheses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think the next one is hard.
You think that's hard? It probably is. So, but I think this is his first phase 2 Gestalt, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's the one he's working first. So he chose his man-made one. So he had several Gestalts up there, and he got more than one man-made when he took his coordinates. And so he's pulled man-made one and labeled it as such so we know which one he's looking at. And then he's writing one word underneath on the left-hand side of the page coming down to describe this man-made one. And go ahead. I'm just pointing out structure stuff.
Yeah, can I point out something on the structure here too?
Yep.
He goes hard, tall, thin, oval, clear, and then what happens is he goes winking about the site. It's called winking about the site. And he's describing the man-made as having jealousy, complaining, and whatever
that little word right there.
Yeah. And what's happening is we liken it to a guy in a dark room with only a pen light. You look at something and you say, oh, that something is round, it's hard, it's shiny, and then you suddenly jerk your pen light up to something else around the room and you go winking around the room. And when you go back to write your summary, you say, okay, the man-made number one is, and you go down through here, and what will stand out is the descriptors of the man-made. But then you come back later, and you say, okay, the person is, and you come down through man-made again, because some of your descriptors of the person may be under man-made when you started winking about the site. So just wanted to add that in.
We're using a dead session here for teaching, which is the point for all of us sharing, actually. But over here, Stray Cat or AOL of Iwo Jima. Now, something here has reminded his conscious mind of Iwo Jima. Now, when you think about what do most of us think of if you think of Iwo Jima, what comes to your mind? The guy is
raising the flag, yeah.
Raising the flag. What is this guy doing with his hands and with that pole? He's not raising a flag, but if you superimpose those pictures, they're sort of similar, if you see what I'm saying. Then if you go on down, he's actually wrote a Stray Cat AOL of cooking utensil. That's a noun, so that's why he set that aside, and I don't think we probably have time to do 59 pages, but he went over then, okay, he set the cooking utensil aside over here, like I just showed you on page 3, but he's not getting trapped into that, but he has other descriptors that something is reminding him of a cooking utensil, and it's hard, and that doesn't look like oval, I'm not sure. By the way, your handwriting goes to pot in remote viewing, so don't feel bad if you can't read it.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah, the worse it is, probably the better off you're doing. Skinny, metallic, clean, clever, sterile, round, more cooking utensil over here. And here we got Starshine, and he actually wrote fire. Blazing. Pole vaulting. See, you've got that stick thing. Yep, he's trying to be careful. He's fighting castle building, because now he's fighting polo matches and horses. He's setting all those aside, trying not to let them hijack his session. Now he took a break here for those of you who somebody got interrupted and then had a hard time focusing. Right here, he needed to take a break. So he wrote break, and then he wrote the time, and then he came back. If I lost the page there. When he came back, he wrote resume and the time. When you do that, you may need to take your coordinates again and get site contact. So you might just need to do this and get another ideogram if you need to, like I said, reestablish site contact. So now he has biological 1 in parentheses, so that tells the analyst that that's what he's looking at. And I'm just going to kind of try and scroll down through these. Maybe if I knew, here's some sketches. What have we got here? Because I really wanted to let Delise see some of this. This is our last session, and it's a controlled remote viewing one. Okay, now he's in a P4 matrix, and he's issuing move commands. And I keep jumping off of this page. I'm going to go to his summary. Because in your summary, you have chosen what to keep as descriptors versus conscious mind junk.
That's page 56.
Yep, 56. And he's practiced measuring and P6 tools. And he's smelling smells, which is incense, it's sweet.
And for those who write summaries, who aren't up on writing summaries, it makes your summary a whole lot clearer and easier to read if you start out like he does. The target has aspects of, and put your put the gestalts that you still believe are there, and then take each one of them. The man-made is, and describe the man-made. Go back, take the next one. The biological is, and describe it, and so on. And you'll be pulling information from your entire session to describing the man-made. Then when you go to, like I say, the biological, you may go back to what you had in your summary of descriptions of the man-made, because mixed in there may be things like jealous and so on. And so you go back through your whole session to get the descriptors of the biological, then through your whole session, and this can be done very, very fast. You shouldn't take any time at all. What you do is you just scan down through there, and your subconscious mind will make something stand out at you, and that's what you put in your summary. So it can be very, very, in fact, it needs to be very, very fast. You shouldn't labor on this at all.
Okay, and as I said, he's trying to practice measuring and dimensionals. So you can see, if you scan down through his summary, where he's got timelines and how things have, I'm scanning down through here, two-thirds of the way into the event. If you take each of these descriptors by themselves and ask whether or not there's somebody at that site, like, are there many people? Yes, there are. Waiting, watching. There's concentration, commitment. Sorry, I'm also printing something.
And notice that he also ends his summary with other things I found while at the site, and that gives you a chance to just round up anything that hasn't fallen into your summary so far, but that you know is there. And so doing it in this outline form lets you judge each perception on its own merits. It also organizes them into where they should be, what they're describing, and it also makes it easy for an analyst or a customer to understand what describes what, and it gives you the complete freedom to you know, if it's not there, then your last sentence is always other things I found at the site, and you go ahead and write those in. So this outline form is kind of slow to learn for most people because it's not taught in schools, but once you learn it, the amount of clarity that you get in your summary just skyrockets over the run-on paragraphs.
Okay, well, darn it, without Jed here, his mom has been sick, so I don't know if he maybe had to go take care of her, why he couldn't stay. But anyway, so it is almost 10 o'clock, and we had a ton of sessions to go over. Would anybody... does anybody have any questions that we want to just try and address here at the end, or?
I have the comment that I'm impressed by all of these.
Well, I'm glad that you're impressed. Everybody worked hard. If anybody wants to take their mic off mute. Well,
well, I hope we've been, able to show everyone the different styles and the answer questions for everyone, and that this has been useful. I'm really glad to see the number of people here is increasing, and the quality of the work here is really good.
And you have to remember that you guys are just starting. It's not like you are working operations or working for the FBI, and I get emails from some of you. It's like, oh, I really blew it, which we always think that we blew it, and a lot of times we've gotten really good stuff. But just because you don't have the session that you think that Joe McMonagle got or Lynn would get, you're practicing, and that's what counts. And every time you work a session, it isn't to learn something about the target, it's to learn something about yourself.
That's right. There was an article, I wish I had kept it and downloaded it. It said anybody can be a total expert after 10,000 tries of doing something. And there's nothing in the world that you can't do after 10,000 tries. And the first tries and the 100th try, you've still got a ways to go. And let me tell you, on the sessions that I've done over the past 25 years, I'm still learning. And many times, one of the reasons I come here for the things that Teresa has here is because I learned something. And so, you know, never quit learning.
I find it so helpful to be putting the adjectives and the nouns, separating them. It kind of gives me a direction, and I think I'm going to like this one a little bit better than the other one that I was doing, because I think this is more like aligned with kind of how I am. I'm like very rigid in my life, and I like everything to be in the right place and stuff. So it kind of gives me permission to kind of be myself, and I think also describing things, I tend to do that just when I'm talking to people. So I just didn't put it in the session. So now I feel like, oh, I can just do it now.
Write it down.
Write it down. You can always throw it out when you do your summary. And this is one of the things that that we always need to impress on people. Let's say right in the middle of it, you get a line out of the Gettysburg Address or something, and you think, well, that's dumb. You know, I'm not going to write that down. Hey, write it down. By the time you get to the end of your session, you'll have really good sight contact. And by that time, you go back through your session, you look at it, and you say, yeah, that was dumb, I'm throwing it out. And it doesn't wind up in your summary. Or you do in your summary, and you go back down through your session, and you see that line out of the Gettysburg Address or something, and you say, oh, I know what that means now. And it goes into your summary. But at the time, you didn't know what it meant. So whatever you get, write it down. And, you know, you don't have to be right when you're doing your session. You only have to be right when you're doing your summary. And by that time, you have good sight contact, so don't worry about it.
Okay, that's good.
Teacher, before we sign off, I want to show you something. I am making a document real fast. It'll take me just another second, and I'm saving it. Hopefully it will let me find it right away. Somebody's got some cute ringtones going on there. I don't think that was me.
No, it was actually me. Deborah was calling me.
Oh, well, that's exciting.
She wants, you know, me to fill her in with the rest of the meeting.
Ah. Oh, why won't it like this thing? It never likes it. I just saved it.
Good to see Marco here, too.
Yeah. Poor guy. Middle of the night.
So we've got some students coming your way in December and January, and I would give anything to be with them and come that way too, but unfortunately I can't do it. But I'm going to they promised me tons and tons of pictures, so that'll have to do in my case, but I would give my right arm to be there.
Well, teacher, look what you've done. You've grown another instructor with an office. Picture 1 and picture 2.
They're not showing up on my screen here.
Oh, you can't see them?
No,
If you go up to the top tab where it says Teresa's office. Now can you see them?
Yeah, You're needing some furniture there.
Yeah, that very, very white room, I have some paint. And it's in the bottom. I've been vetted by the United States Post Office here in Troy, and they rent office space at the bottom, or in their basement and their upstairs, and I chose the basement. And it's a huge room. It's 300 square feet, and the paint is purchased, and the people who are going to put it up have called, and I told them I need it by Monday. And they said, not a problem. And I have furniture picked out. I don't necessarily have the funds, but I'm working on that, and we're going to be good to go.
Hey, everybody in the remote viewing unit learned in an 8x12 room that was Battleship Gray. So good.
Yep.
I'm glad to see you're doing this.
Yep, I'm pretty excited. Now I've already got the publications where I'm going to run some ads and here in the state of Ohio and see if I can interest some students who are already interested in intuitive things, and we'll see how it goes. So.
Good deal. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Excuse me, I just had a little hiccup there. I want to try and get a classroom setting that's stable and not bouncing around, you know, between the library and you know, place where we can all get together every now and then, and hotels. And I thought if I could find a cozy little nook someplace, that was my goal. So here we are. It's a big room too.
Yeah, it looks like it. It's I think it ought to do fine. It's heated.
Yep.
Well, we didn't have that. That's true.
That Uncle Sam can't afford to heat you.
Well, you know, in the military, we were in condemned buildings.
Yeah.
So, you know, things like heat, air conditioning, things like that. We were proud to get electricity wired to the building.
Yeah,
we were the illegitimate children of the government, you know.
Well, since you didn't exist, I think that was probably a problem.
Say what?
You didn't exist. That was part of the problem.
Well, yeah, that is sort of a problem.
Yeah.
Especially around payday when they don't know how to pay you.
Yeah, that's not good. So. Well, it's 9:57. We've been going 2 hours, and I really think we probably ought to wrap this up. And I wanted to thank everybody for coming. I don't think we've ever had such a diverse group. We've got viewers represented from 4 trainers, I think, and all levels, and homeschool and operational, even though they weren't actually sitting here with us. So thanks everybody for coming, for contributing your sessions, because if you don't contribute sessions, we have nothing to talk about, and the learning gets down to, because we've done that when nobody's 3 or 4 people and nobody had time to do a session, and you just don't learn much of anything at all. If you actually have a hands-on session you can talk about, it makes all the difference in the world. So anyway, thanks Lynn for your commentary and your wise teaching, because you've been there, done that, and have the entire outfit, not just the t-shirt. So we appreciate you.
Yeah, they never gave me a t-shirt. Actually, they did.
I was going to say, I can't hardly believe that. We could probably rectify that. We'll make you one. So.
I think you've seen my pictures of my team shirt there with a big, huge Defense Intelligence Agency seal on it that we always called a target instead of an emblem.
Well, I'm getting ready to start putting up targets in January, for January. There's one more scheduled in December. So if you are not registered for it, you can still register, start working at any time if you want retasking exercises. For those of you who don't know what that is, retasking is you do a session, and if there were a customer who wanted information, we would look over that session, you know, prepare a report, look over. If they want more information about a certain area and you have a perception, I could retask you and ask you to do a second session on your perception. You don't retask a viewer on someone else's perception because they did not get that perception. But anyway, there is a target in 2 weeks. If you are not registered, please feel free. And if you want retasking, just send me an email at teresalfrisch@aol.com and I'll take care of you. And thanks for coming. Good night, John Boy.
Good night.
Good night, Mary Ellen.
Thank
you very much.